Hi and welcome back to the channel, the Joshua Chris podcast. Today, I've got an amazing guest with me. I've got Angela here, and we are going to be talking about beautiful things today. As I always say, I usually use that phrase, beautiful things, a lot. Well, today we are going to be talking about lots of things. All right. It's so good to have you here. I am super excited having you on the podcast today. It's been, it's been a minute. We've been trying to schedule it, and finally it came through. So good to have you here. How have you been?
I am pretty good. Took a day off actually because I had to go to do some errands and get some stuff done. So I had to take a day off and just came back home, checked some emails, and hopped onto the call with you. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing really good. I'm very fine, thank you. And I've been looking forward to our chat actually, and I am pumped. That we're actually having this right now. It's gonna be a blast, isn't it?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. All right, so as I usually do you want to go ahead and, introduce yourself to the people, let the audience learn about you, and also share a bit about your journey in tech?
Okay, so I was born in Pakistan. I
All
have
right.
been developing software and I've been working as a full stack engineer for the last 10, 11 years now. I started off my journey in tech in 2013 when I was a fresh graduate. Now it's been like 11 years into it. At the beginning, I was working on PHP, .NET, and Java. And then I moved on to a very backend heavy role that was on Java again. And then I moved to a more front end heavy role that was mainly based on Angular. And from that, my love for Angular grew. Apart from Angular, I've also worked on React and Next.js for the front end
Oh
and some
yeah.
of the Node projects in Django for the back end as well. That's a little bit about past things that I've done, and I really aspire to become an Angular GD one day. And yeah, that was a little bit about me.
I remember when I first bumped into your LinkedIn profile and I checked it out. It was absolutely beautiful. Like first off, yeah, of course the LinkedIn profile was, packed with lots of things. But then I went to your portfolio website and it was just very nice. Like um the accessibility on it is just profound. Like first page, they can learn a lot about you immediately. And I checked you out on different platforms. I saw the things you did, with React and other, technologies. And I just looked at your certifications, looked at everything was, pretty, the ease of access was just phenomenal. And I loved it. I
Really, I'm so
loved
glad
it.
that you liked it.
I do actually. I do. So I was like, when I saw that, I was like, I got to say hello to you. I had to talk to you, and so I mean, talking to you, the audience would
Okay.
learn a lot from you today. All right, so
Yeah, I hope so.
I've got prepared for you a few questions, and I'm gonna be asking you those questions. Take your time to answer them. The audience, they want to hear a lot from you. I'm sure they're super pumped actually having you here right now.
Yeah, they are there. I knew that they would make some kind of an appearance here.
All right. Okay. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Hello. All right. Beautiful. All right. So of course, something I want to start off with something interesting. We had a couple of chats, and in our LinkedIn chats, you mentioned that you lost your father at 14, and you were raised by a single mom. Uh, I mean, well, I want to ask you something. How did these early life experiences shape your drive and ambition in the tech field?
So I lost my dad due to a cardiac arrest. He was completely fine. He just slept and he never woke up. And losing my dad suddenly at the age of 14 both had a positive and a negative impact on my life.
Mhm.
When you are like 14 and you see that you only have one sister who is 9 years old and a mom with no external resources, no other sources of income, anything, and you're living in a third world country, it really puts things into perspective. I am very grateful from a very young age, I was able to observe how important it is for women to be financially independent by seeing my mom up against all the obstacles that come with being a single mom in a third world country. That is exactly what led me to decide, like, what that's how I decided that I'm going to stay financially independent, and I'm going to stay financially independent to give my mom a better life and to give my sister a better life. But the flip side is that and that's something that I've always struggled with for a very long time in my career as well. That I somehow kind of lost my ability to delegate. It became very, very hard for me to delegate stuff because I have always been very, very independent and kind of like hyper independent. So when I grew up to achieve roles or grew up in my career to roles that required me to actually delegate things to other people, that's when I really felt like that's when I struggled a lot in delegating stuff because of being so independent and so hyper independent from a very young age. And that is something that I'm also working on now as well. But this is something that doesn't actually naturally comes to me when it comes to my profession. So losing my dad from a very early age, being the sole breadwinner for my mom and my sister from a very early age, has had both positive and negative impacts in my life. But most importantly, I think I wouldn't change anything in that journey because that journey actually taught me lessons that were precious. And those are the lessons that I really expect that I'm able to give to my daughters and other girls around me as well. So it had both a good thing and a bad thing, obviously, and it affected me in so many ways. And you know, it affected me in both good ways, positive ways, and negative ways.
Oh yeah. Well, that's quite a beautiful story. But a lot of people watch the show, and mothers could be watching the show, and young girls as well. So you're inspiring. A lot of people. That was really beautiful.
Well, yeah, I really hope that I do.
All right, so let's talk about this. Now, you got introduced to Angular while you were working as a Java developer. You know, I looked at your LinkedIn thoroughly, so I did a lot of
Yeah.
learning, personally. Let's talk about what drew you to Angular and what makes you keep coming back to it despite working with other frameworks like, Django and, working with PHP .NET. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. So yeah, I was hired as a Java developer by the company, and I was supposed to write microservices on Spring Boot.
Okay.
And during my very first week, my team lead came to me and he told me that there have been some changes in the team structure. And in addition to writing the microservices, I also have to develop the front end of an application on Angular 4. Angular 4 was the recent version of the latest version of Angular that was out at that time. And at first, I didn't know anything about it because I came from very back end heavy role. The organization that I worked on prior to joining this organization, um, at that organization, my role was primarily as a Java developer, and it was like 80% backend and just 20% front end, a little bit of front end. And transitioning from that to a front end
Oh
heavy
yeah.
role was very, very difficult. Yeah, it was quite challenging, but now I cannot imagine working solely on backend. I now enjoy front end a lot, and I enjoy full stack development in general a lot, but I cannot imagine working solely on backend now. So coming back to answer your question, so that was the first time that I heard about Angular, and I started learning about it, and I started implementing it in the projects. And as the projects grew, so did
Yeah.
my love for Angular. Even though I've had some seriously incredible opportunities of working on with other frameworks and other platforms like Node.js, Django, .NET, I kept coming back to Angular in the form of side projects or contributions to the open source projects. I recently contributed to a very small change to the Angular repository as well. So the reason why I kept coming back to Angular is because how the framework has progressed over the years in terms of developer experience, and because of the massive developers community that is always there to help us in whenever we get stuck at something. So yeah, I mean, the developer experience has progressed so much from the prior versions of Angular to now the later versions of Angular. In the roadmap, they have said that the upcoming versions of Angular are going to be even more developer friendly and even more performance wise are going to be very, very robust. So this is exactly the reason why I kept coming back to Angular despite
Oh yeah.
working on here and there a lot of projects. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah.
All right. So you're a senior full stack developer. I mean, your profile is absolutely impressive. You know, I did a lot of digging. I clicked almost not everything, but a lot of links on your profile, at your portfolio website. So yeah, it's really interesting. And
Thank you.
yeah, previously you talked about delegation, and how that, because you've been so independent, for a long time, and you hardly would see yourself delegating because you kind of like want to do it yourself and stuff like that, right? So I want to ask you this question. You're a mother of three kids. How do you balance, such a demanding tech career with motherhood, especially when your kids are so young?
Yes, I'm actually so glad that you asked this question and you brought up this
Okay.
question, because not only is this topic very, very close to my heart, but it's also something that is not really talked about as much as it should be. But an honest answer to your question is that no, I don't really manage anything. I prioritize very effectively. There are some days when I'm too occupied at work and the house stays a mess. There are times when I have to put the work a little bit on, like I put a little bit of hold on the work, like I took a day off today, um, and so that like I can do the the things that are required for me to do, like around the house and stuff. Um, there are days when I am running out of time and I have to, like, finish a task or submit a task on certain deadline. And those are the days when I'm not actually cooking very healthy meals for the kids, and I'm just taking out McDonald's or something like that, and
Yeah.
we're kind of like having a party. So I never really manage anything. I don't think that any mom who is working, or any parent in general who's working, they don't really manage anything. They just prioritize things effectively. And some of the days, if they are lucky, the prioritization works, and some of the days are, if they're not lucky, the prioritization doesn't work. But I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that I have an equal partner. My husband is an equal partner, both in raising children, doing household stuff, um, career progression, everything. And he celebrates me and supports me at every stage. And like, it takes a village to raise a child, right? And
That's
my
right.
village is, yeah, and my village is my mom, my sister, and my mother-in-law. These three women have supported me in a way that no one else could. During the times that I was really struggling with motherhood and
Mhm.
transitioning and learning about motherhood, what mothering
Yeah.
was, um, and I had to obviously manage my whole career as well. At that time, they were the ones who actually took on the important caregiving responsibilities for my children, and I could have never been here if it wasn't for the women, the stay-at-home moms, that supported me in this
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah.
And apart from that, also, I'm very lucky to be a part of an organization that empowers women during these times, during the childbearing times, when their kids are young, when they're expecting a kid. And while this is awesome, I still think that sadly, it's an exception in many parts of the world. It's not a norm. And this thing should be a norm. Companies and organizations across the world, even in Pakistan or wherever, internationally as well, they they should be there should be more work done in terms of flexibility and care and family centric policies um, than it is right now. So one thing that I'm really lucky to be a part of an organization that empowers women in their whole motherhood journey. And but this is not like something that is very very common, and this is not something that is norm for every woman. Sadly, it should not be a matter of luck to be able to spend this time with your family. It should be a matter of course. And I always say that it should. I was very very lucky, but it should not be a matter of luck.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So I saw on your LinkedIn. I mean, that was really beautiful. Thank you so much for that. So much value in that. So I saw on your LinkedIn, and I learned that you actually interviewed for a role at Google. Interesting. Do you want to walk us through, tell us about the experience and what you learned from it?
Yeah, a recruiter from Google Poland approached me on LinkedIn and asked me if I was interested in exploring opportunities there at Google. And naturally, I was over the moon when I got this message in my DMs
Uh-huh.
because obviously Google is a dream company for anyone. So
Yeah.
I immediately said yes, and we scheduled an initial screening call the following week. The
Okay.
initial screening was based on the recruiter to getting to know me about my work experience, some technical questions to see if I'm a fit for the role. I was also given preparation material from Google, and I had around 3 weeks of time to prepare.
Oh,
I went
okay.
through the preparation material. Yeah, I went through the preparation material, and I did a lot of lead code as much as I could with 3 kids. I did a lot of lead code, code
Yeah.
signal, and revised my data structures and algorithm as much as I could.
Okay.
On, I think after 3 weeks, on the day of interview, I was given a problem that was related to graphs, and it was kind of like a medium to hard lead code kind of a problem, and it was related to graphs. And even though I had an initial solution, like a brute force kind of a solution, it was not optimized enough. And I spent a lot of time on the first approach. That was the feedback that I got, and that was something that I also realized when I was working on that question during the interview.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
this is something that I learned a lot from this whole overall experience was time management and the importance of managing your time during the technical interview, because I felt that I got stalled at just the brute force solution, and obviously I had to optimize it. I
Oh,
had to
yeah.
calculate the time and space complexity of it. That is something that I could not get enough time to do so. But um, after that, I really worked on it, and they'll be giving me another chance in December or January
Oh, beautiful.
again. Yeah, because Google has like a 6 month of reapplication period. So you once you get
Oh,
rejected from there,
yeah.
you cannot apply for like the next 6 months.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
gave my interview in June. So after June, I have like December or January. Then I'm gonna apply again, and hopefully, let's see what happens. Then I'm just excited about that opportunity as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you know walk me through, I mean, a little bit about how you started? I do have a few more questions for you, but you started off, how did you start off learning? And you know, did he go through boot camps? Did he go through, of course I saw the courses, from your portfolio. And so I think that was your route. But afterwards, those courses, did you kind of like take an internship or straight away get a full-time role, or start freelancing or stuff like that? Walk me through that.
Oh yeah, sure. I actually did a little bit of freelancing during the time that I was unemployed, and but mostly it was I never did an internship ever.
Or
Back in 2013, my peers did do an internship. I couldn't do an internship because my mom also suffers a lot with anxiety, and she has a lot of anxiety. She used to have a lot of anxiety letting me go when I was a student. So she was not very comfortable with the idea of me doing an internship. So I unfortunately couldn't do any internship. I Yeah, I directly jumped into a full time role. Like right after graduation, I was lucky enough to get a full time 9 to 5 kind of a role. So yeah, I did not do any internships, but yes, throughout my journey, I have upskilled myself in a way that I always worked on the frameworks. I always chose the frameworks that I wanted to work on based on the requirements of the project instead of just going with whatever I am used to doing. So when I worked on PHP, I switched to .NET very easily. And when I was working on .NET, it was easier for me to switch to Java because of the similar nature of the languages, and the syntax was a little different, but the overall concepts were the same. So yes, I did a lot of certifications. I did participate in 2 hackathons last year. One was on Web
Awesome.
3.0
Okay.
and one was on generative AI, where I developed a small application using prompt engineering.
All
It was
right.
hosted by AWS.
Oh yeah.
So I think, yeah, I think participation in hackathons and contributing to open source projects and uh, working on side projects is a very good way to first improve on your coding skills and second attract other recruiters, because unfortunately the nature of our work is in a way that we don't have a lot of time to first get the resource and then train them. um, if there's a resource and if you are um, applying to a job, and if you have some side projects and some open source contributions and some hackathons and some courses, that as someone who is now at a senior position, that gives me some kind of an assurance that you can be trusted for the job, and I won't have to train you. I will just have to give you the problem statement and you are going to do the engineering for me.
Yeah.
So that is quite reassuring,
Yeah.
both in attracting a recruiter and then gaining the trust and confidence of your mentor. So
Yeah.
yeah, that is all that I did, and it helps a lot apart
That's
from
right.
your work. But what I used to do was that I used to go to my office and I used to come back and I used to do a lot of coding again when I used to
Oh
come
yeah.
back home. So it was like around 16 hours of coding in a day when I was working on
Whoa.
these certifications and when I was
That
working
is
on
massive.
hackathons. And yeah, because it was important for me. The reason why I say that it was so important for me was because for like around 4 3 4 years in my journey, when my kids were very young, I was talking about the time when I had a newborn, I had a 1.5 year old, and I had a 3.5 year old. So I had three kids under 4 years of age. And at that point in time, my goal was not my career progression. My goal was to just survive this whole time um, with a stable income and to just get on the other side of the picture when my kids are a little bit grown up. So at that point in time, I couldn't focus on my career and my career progression as I should have been. And now my kids are like older enough to go to school and they are more independent. So now I can focus primarily on my career. And in order for me to make up for the gap that I had despite working, um, it was important for me to get a little bit out of my comfort zone and push myself through harder, um, so that I can open doors to more opportunities and learn a little bit more and stand out from the crowd.
Awesome.
So hackathons, certifications, pair programming exercises, lead code, hacker rank, code signal, all these things played a really important role in making it all happen.
Awesome. Awesome. So I've got follow-up questions, from that. I'm gonna ask them later. But I've got a question for you. Just before I ask you this question, I do want to know. I'm gonna list out a few. I'm gonna give you a list here, and you're gonna tell me how they rank. So, of course, building side projects are totally nice. They're very good. You've got to do that. Like building your own projects. When you're learning, they're like, hey, you've got to build projects because then you get better at coding and stuff. So we've got building projects. We've got let's say contributing to open source. Okay. Then let's say we've got let's say internships. Okay. So let me say these three building projects, contributing to open source and internships. How would you rank them in this sense? Talking about gaining more experience. Which one do you think would actually help you gain, you know, the better experience, or if that makes sense?
Okay, so if you're looking forward to enter the job market
Mhm.
is brutal in 2024. The job market is like
Yeah.
tough for a new graduate to break into. So if you're looking for some kind of a job, like to enter the workforce immediately as a full-time developer, as a full-time role or part-time, even if it's a part-time role, I think internship would play a good role. But that being said, that internship has to be at a good organization. i have
That's right.
seen graduates I have seen graduates doing an internship, but that is just for the sake of internships and getting a certificate. But that is not how it should be happening. So internships they do give you a good exposure in terms of the fact that they do build up your soft skills a lot, and you get to know about the environment and how to be in a corporate setting and all these things. That
Yeah.
is awesome and that is great. But that being said, contributing to open source projects, in my opinion, would always stand out and be the first one in the list. The reason why I say that is because there are millions of open source projects available on GitHub, and there are so many organizations that ask for your GitHub profiles um, separately when you're applying to those organizations. So contribution to an open source repository or open source projects gives them like a visual proof that you have contributed, and it also um, tells them what exactly have you contributed to the project. It's very visual. It's right in front of them, so they have a really solid proof of your contributions and your coding skills. Apart from that, when you are contributing to an open source project, what happens is that you are not only contributing to a small chunk um, of project, you're contributing to a very large scale projects. And that also, as for me, as someone who also takes technical interviews, for me that thing gives me an assurance that this person is good at collaboration as well. Like the coding
Yeah.
skills are good, but they also have a good knowledge about Git, how to use Git, how to create PRs, for example, how to adhere to the right coding principles. So it gives me a good understanding of their problem solving skills,
Yeah.
of their approaches, how they use Git. So I always prefer people who have a good GitHub profile and someone that I can look at their profile and see what their contributions have been, uh, instead of hiring someone who has done an internship at XYZ organization and has a certificate at the end. I'm sure they have also a very good learning experience, but I would still contributing to open source would be the first one for me. Um,
Right.
Other than that, yeah, the internships, yes, are amazing. It gives you a really good exposure, but that obviously has to be at an organization that is good.
Yeah.
Not like, and those organizations are very tough. Like it's hard to get into those organizations, right? The competition is tough. There's a lot of people, brilliant students that are applying every year. So it's harder. But contributing to open source is easier. It's available for everyone, and it shows on your GitHub profile, so they know, the recruiter knows that you have contributed, and they know exactly what you have contributed. over a year or over a certain period of time.
Yeah. Okay.
So
All right. That's still good. So you mentioned in one of your posts, your LinkedIn post, that rejection from Google actually helps you understand where you lacked as a developer, right? Do you want to share what specific areas you've been working on to improve and how you're preparing for future opportunities?
yes, well, when I was working on preparation for my Google interview, I realized very quickly that I was very good with arrays and strings, and all the algorithms that are revolving around arrays and strings, like sliding window, questions that require me to reverse, but the questions that require me to traverse graphs and trees, or performing different types of searches and sorting and all these things,
Hmm.
these were the problems that I needed more time to grasp, and these are the problems that I still sometimes lack a lot. So, but obviously after this Google experience thing, it has become very better. Now I'm able to tackle all of these questions with lesser difficulty, but I'm now capable of designing better solutions, come up with a brute force approach, and then make the necessary optimizations as I go along towards solving it. But and I also have worked on my time complexity and space complexity calculation. So hopefully, I'm gonna do better next time. And it has taught me a lot about the fact that data structures and algorithms are very important, and data structures and algorithms are something that we should always have a very solid grasp on. And when it comes to trees and graphs, that is something that when I first interviewed for Google, I knew I lacked in. And unfortunately, I got a problem that was related to graphs. But now I got better at it. And it's kind of like the more you adapt to these patterns, the better you get at it.
Yeah, that's right.
Try to do it at least. Okay, I try to do it at least like one, two problem in a day. I aim for a set of five problems, but if it's not possible for me, then I do like one or two in a day. So that has helped me a lot.
Right. So that's really good. I mean, you've worked with a wide variety of technologies, from Java to .NET, to Angular and a lot more. Do you prefer working on the front end or the back end? Of course, you work, on both. But if you were to choose front end versus back end, which one would it be and why?
Okay, so the first 3 years of my career, I was working on a role that was 50% front end and 50% back end. Then I got a chance to work on a completely back end heavy role. Like I said, that was 80% back end and just 20% front end. The roles that required me to work on full stack, the one that I'm currently working, have always been the most fulfilling to me, because by working on the backend side, I get exposure to the functionality of the system and design, the high level design and the low level design parts. Whereas working on the front end makes me feel like an artist on the browser, and I'm able
Uh,
to integrate so many the APIs that I've developed and see how they combine and they get in action, and they are put together to deliver quality to the users. So, in my opinion, I would always stick to the full stack side, because one, it has given me a lot of exposure. Two, it is more fulfilling to me because I'm able to have an end-to-end responsibility and an end-to-end ownership of the project. And if it's not full stack, then if it's just solely between front end and the back end, I would always stick to the front end, because that's what I've been doing for the last 8 years or so, maybe.
yeah.
And that's something that I enjoy, that I miss actually when I'm working on back end heavy roles. It was just for 1 or 2 years in my professional career experience that I was working on a back end heavy role, and I missed working on the front end side. So after that, I said, no, I cannot work on solely on the back end. I need some visuals, something React,
Oh yeah.
Next, Angular, something that allows me to work on the front end.
Yeah, it's really cool. Just a little bit detail here, talking about the Mark Zuckerberg's future. I believe probably you might have seen a few episodes, on YouTube, where Mark he does this podcast sessions with different creators and you know um engineers, YouTubers, and he talks about the glasses they're actually working on at Meta. So yeah, really beautiful. And he talks about some key features and integrations that are sort of um that give Meta a little bit, I would say, tough time. So talking about that, I do want to know about. So you've been in tech for over a decade, yeah? What are some of the most challenging projects you've worked on, and how did you overcome those challenges? Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, I've been in the tech for like around 10, 11 years now, and there has been so many projects that I've worked on. But I cannot recall one project that I really had a hard time. But yes, there were two phases in my career and my journey in tech that were a little challenging for me. The first phase was obviously the transition and the switch from the backend heavy role to the front end heavy role, because when you're working on the back end, the end users of your application
Yeah,
are other engineers, right? They are technical
yeah,
people who are using your
yeah.
application. But when you're working on the front end, there are the end users of your application are non-technical people. They are either the marketing team or the product owners or other senior C-suite stakeholders that are actually interacting with your system. So in order for me to communicate the challenges that I was facing, in order for me to communicate the complexities in the system, um, that was something that it used to be very, very easy for me to communicate when I used to be communicating with other engineers. But things got really challenging for me at the beginning when I used to communicate all these things in a way that even the non-technical users could understand.
Oh yeah.
So it was very, very difficult for me to you know uh, convey my message in a way that people from marketing can understand and the end users can understand. So that was something that I learned from that improved my communication skills a lot, uh, working from backend to frontend. But also, there was a time when in one of my previous roles, I got an incredible opportunity to work on a code base that was legacy code base. Like it was really,
Oh
really old. There was
yeah.
no support for that, and it was a live application,
Oh
and
yeah.
that taught me a lot about how to manage my timelines, because my the project manager used to ask me about the timelines, and I used to say, well, this I don't think that this feature could take a lot of time for me to build. But when I actually used to get into the development of it,
Hmm.
and because there was lack of support of the technologies being a legacy and so many things were deprecated, I used to have a really, really hard time in adjusting the work and completing the work within the set time, because I used to have no idea about how legacy systems work and how to um, write code um, in frameworks that are now legacy and now deprecated,
Oh
and
yeah.
how to
Yeah.
manage my timelines and estimations,
Okay.
and how to communicate those estimations, calculate those estimations rather, and tell them to my project manager
Just
and
so the audience
ask
actually
them.
know. Okay, I'm gonna do a good job of editing this, but so guys, just so you know, that's Ingila's daughter. What's her name?
Well, I have two kids. One of them is Vanessa, and then Ramin, and then Omar. So they are making a lot of
Oh
noise.
yeah, beautiful. So guys, I'm gonna try to edit it nicely, but you've got to bear with us. This is what it looks like working from home as a mother.
Yeah.
So let's get on with it. Yeah. Did you finish on that thought?
Yeah, I think I did.
Okay.
You were asking me about the hardware projects, and I was telling you
Yeah.
about the fact that there was not one single project that I can name. but there were, yes, phases that I can recall from my experiences that it was moving from the backend heavy to the front end heavy side,
Oh yeah.
and working on legacy code in terms of date estimations and timeline estimation. It really it taught me a lot about how to calculate the estimated timelines and convey to my manager
Hmm.
um, when I'm working on legacy code, because there's always going to be no lack. There's always going to be lack of support, and because there is no support, there's actually not a lot of people in the workplace as well that they can help you out, because they're also struggling with their tasks when
Hmm.
they're working on legacy code. So that was something that really I struggled with, but that obviously that taught me a lot of cool lessons about how to navigate through the whole situation.
Yeah. And probably once in a while you'd use some AI tools, to, you know,
Yeah, the co-pilot
yeah,
and all these things are great, but I'm
working
talking
on.
about the time when it was like 25
Oh
to
yeah, yeah,
2017,
yeah,
2016, 2015, and back in that time we didn't have all these
yeah.
things.
That's right.
So that was a time when, and the Google also couldn't help a lot,
I can
because I
understand
used to
that.
type in my query on Stack Overflow or
Oh
GitHub,
yeah, I
and they
know,
also
I
used to
know.
tell me that you need to upgrade it.
You've got such a diverse, background in tech. I do want to know how you actually stay updated, on the latest trends and advancements in the tech industry.
Well, I read a lot.
Okay.
Um, I follow like-minded developers and I read a lot. And then whatever I'm implementing on a day-to-day basis, whatever I'm reading on a day-to-day basis,
Hmm.
I write it down. This is something that I realized very later on in my career, that it's important for developers to be able to be good writers. And some of the best engineers that I've had pleasure working with, they were very, very good writers.
Okay.
They were like excellent writers. And when I started writing about different frameworks and trends initially, I used to be surprised at how little I actually knew about all those frameworks and technologies and trends. So, apart from reading blogs, subscribing to newsletters, connecting with the experts on LinkedIn and paying active attention to their posts was and has always been a very, very good way to get the updates in the industry. And then whatever you learn, I make it a practice to write it down on medium.com or dev.to community to just have mental notes about whatever I'm learning. And that has helped me a lot in gaining in-depth knowledge about the frameworks and the technologies that I've been able to work on.
All right. Here is a beautiful question now to follow up that. Well, not really to follow up that. It's entirely a different question, but that was really beautiful. Learn a lot from that. So I do really think that a lot of people actually have been waiting for this question. I do really think so. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, sure, I guess.
All right. So here's a question. You've got such a strong foundation in software development, right? I do want to know, and the audience as well want to know, what advice would you give to someone just starting out their career in tech?
Okay, I guess to stand out, do side projects and don't rely on your workplace or whatever organization has hired you for your upskilling. Instead of that, you take ownership of your own upskilling and go beyond your organization, go beyond your working hours for learning the tools and technologies that we need to actually deliver the right products to the client. Participation in hackathons is an amazing way to to stay upskilled. Keep your DSA flawless. If this is something that I cannot emphasize more on that. Keep your DSA, your data structures and algorithms flawless, because they are going to help you a lot in um, cracking technical interviews. Because when you are a fresh graduate, um, you are supposed to be at the peak of your logic building skills. You're supposed to have some kind of amazing logic building skills that um, when you progress in your senior roles in your organization, it's not gonna look like that, but at the beginning of your career, keep your data structures and algorithm flawless. Be open to take risks and embrace failures as a part of this journey. Rejections happen, and it's just a part of the journey. That's how the job market is these days, unfortunately. And it's across the world. And getting rejected is not a reflection of your shortcomings as a candidate. It's not a reflection
Yeah,
of your own shortcomings as a developer.
that's
It's
right.
just that companies sometimes the competition is really, really tough, and companies have to make these hard decisions when they are um, hiring people and looking for candidates.
Yeah,
And it's very, very, I understand that the job market is very brutal, like I said earlier, and it's hard for you to stand out. It's hard for us to stand out today than it was some years back.
that's right.
So if you're starting your career in tech or looking to break into tech or just looking for a new opportunity, just get some hands-on experience on side projects, hackathons, write about your learning, and write about your the things that you are learning on different blogs. Share your knowledge with people. Um, DSA, and again, the basic fundamentals that are something that you need to have strong foundation on. And for that, do a lot of lead code, core signal, hacker rank. Like I said initially, I usually advise beginners to aim for like 5 problems in a day, but being consistent is more important. Um, in doing lead code, right? So just be consistent. Even if you can solve 1 problem in a day or like 2 problems in a day, that is also fine. But try to be consistent as you can. And one more thing that I always tell them when you're doing lead code or code signal is that that is something that I also used to do a lot, and I used to struggle a lot with that. That I used to try to solve the whole problem on my own initially, and
Hmm.
obviously it used to be hard for me, and I could not crack it. And that used to result in me losing my confidence. And then I used to think like, okay, this is not something I can do. This is something that you will need to adapt a pattern of, you'll need to um, train your brain to learn it. So it's okay if you cannot crack it in one attempt. It's okay if you cannot crack it in a day or something. Just go to the YouTube. You'll find a lot of resources. You'll find tutorials on how to solve this deep code problem or this hacker rank or code signal problem. Follow that. By following that, you'll be training your mind to adapt to the similar kind of pattern that will be useful for you in upcoming problems. But then obviously you'll have to train yourself. um, it, Failing at not being able to crack a lead code problem doesn't mean that you're not a good developer. It only means that your brain
Yeah,
isn't adapted to do it yet. And
yeah,
following YouTube tutorials, writing about it on Medium, that will actually train your mind, and it will create that neurological wiring in your brain that will help you solve many similar problems in the future. But don't lose confidence if you cannot crack it in a single go. So yeah, lead code, hacker rank, participation in hackathons, doing specializations, and contributing to open source is something that is going to make you stand out from the crowd, and it's obviously going to help you attract recruiters.
yeah.
So yeah,
Do you have any recommendations, talking about courses or even open source projects and stuff? Do you want to recommend,
well,
or should they just go search for it themselves?
I think code signal and lead code are my personal favorites when it comes to logic building and pair programming and coding exercises. Geeks for Geeks is another very good resource where they have covered all the solutions to those legal problems in a way that beginners and even a little experienced graduates, a little
Yeah,
experienced professionals can understand. So, and yes, I think networking is also very, very important. So, slide into people's LinkedIn DMs. LinkedIn DMs are safe to slide into, and
yeah,
ask for referrals. Asking for referrals is also something that now is quite, it was quite underrated back in the day, but For me, referrals that from what I have seen globally is that referrals are
Yeah,
a new CV. Like shortlist a few companies that you are interested in working in, and sort out people who are currently working in those organizations, reach out to them, tell them that okay, this is my name, I have this is my resume, I have done these open source contributions, this is my portfolio, these are the certifications that I've done, would you be kind enough to refer me for this position? And most of the time they do refer. And if you obviously have something on your LinkedIn profile to show them that you're capable of, solving a business problem, and that you're capable of pursuing a role at their organization. That's why we have communities, right? It's
yeah,
okay to ask for referrals, and it's okay to reach out to people and ask for referrals. And lastly, just don't lose hope.
that's
It's
right.
easy to fall into self rejection after several rejections.
Yeah,
But rejections are a part of the journey, and it does not have anything. They don't. They're not a reflection of your technical skills.
that's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, you've been coding for how long? Just to be sure.
11 years now.
That is impressive. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, all right, still talking about this, talking to the audience about the best parts to take and stuff like that. Let's talk about you do React, you do Angular. You know, would you say for someone starting out, which one should they, you know, sort of like pay more attention to first? Do you want to say anything about that?
Okay. So, well, see, React is obviously a library. Angular is a framework, and when you're working on a framework, um, if you are applying to for an enterprise level application, and if you aim to develop an enterprise level application that is going to upscale and that is going to be used by, let's say, millions of users worldwide, I would say Angular would be the choice of my framework, because you will find everything under one roof when it comes to linting or testing your applications. They have a massive support from the community. um, so for me, it would be Angular for the front end. But obviously, if you are someone who is more well versed with who's more well versed with JavaScript and is more comfortable with functions rather than classes, because Angular we still have a lot of classes, but in React we have
But
moved
hopefully,
from
maybe
classes to
later
now
on, Angular
functions.
might be moving slightly away from
I would
classes. What do
say
you think about that?
yes. Yes, I would say yes. They might be, because you see, in React and in Next.js as well, we have moved from classes to now functions, and we have um, used functions as dependency injections as well. So, I mean, yes, it will be. I think the future of Angular would be having being away from classes towards functions. But for someone who is just starting out, I would say learning Angular would be, especially if they're working on Angular 18 or Angular 17,
Okay.
they would not be required to have like a very steep learning curve
Oh yeah.
in learning Angular.
All right. Yeah.
And apart from that, they are most likely to encounter Angular in the industrial scale applications in enterprise level projects, because
Yeah.
it being a framework is very, very impressive, and it's very, very attractive to enterprises and large scale organizations that have users that are in millions that are using their applications. So, yeah, for a newbie, I would say Angular would be a great way to start off. But if you're someone that is more comfortable with JavaScript and functions, then you should start off with React and Next.js. Maybe.
That's really cool. Do you know what I'm thinking about right now? Thinking about when you were saying, talking about how long you actually write code. You write code for, let's say, 16 hours, slightly over that, slightly below. But that would, to many people, it might seem like a motivational movie Do you know what I mean? But that is just so. Do you know what I mean? Like James Bond in coding.
Oh no. I
Or we're gonna
I
do.
am not, I am
Oh, we.
so far
Oh,
from perfect.
we could use this analogy. Let's say, do you remember Rambo?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rambo. He's putting in the work. It's sort of like a motivational movie in coding, but that was really beautiful. I loved
But
it.
it's not always, that is something, that is actually the more interesting part, that it is not actually very very consistent, because obviously I have to tend to the kids as well. And
That's right.
there have been so many times when I have to pause my lead code or pause my hackering, and then go back to tend to them, and then when I come back, I am lost, like I don't know where I was when I was solving the problem.
Yeah,
And so like this is also something that frequent context switching, uh, it gets a little difficult for us as working moms or working parents to do this kind of context switching. um, so it's not always consistent, but I always try to aim to like do better and better.
that's really beautiful. Really inspiring, actually. You've actually completed, specializations like IBM, DevOps, and some others. Uh, I want to talk about how important, they are. I'm talking about certifications now in today's tech industry, and how have they helped you, in your career?
Well, certifications are an amazing way to attract a recruiter, like I said. Because what happens is that, imagine if you were recruiting for an organization and you see a resume, and then there's another candidate who has the same kind of experience, the same kind of resume, but they also have a couple of certifications. They also have like attached a couple of certifications with their resume, and they have mentioned about the projects that they have completed in those certifications. Um, for me personally, I would hire someone that has done some kind of a certification, because that would give me some kind of proof and some kind of assurance that I can trust them with the work, because they have a certified proof, that they can be trusted with the work, and I won't have to train them. So it's an amazing way to attract recruiters, but it also is a very, very good way to learn about a technology prior to actually jumping into the technology from on an organizational level or an enterprise level, and then learning. Yes, you do learn a lot when you're working on a project and you're working on an enterprise level application, but a certification gives you uh, that kind of learning experience and covers all the basics that are required for you to jump into an enterprise level application and build an application over an enterprise level project. So yeah, certifications do play like a really important
Okay.
role in your learning, and in obviously making you stand out.
Yeah. Do you have any recommended platforms, your top platforms, where people could actually obtain? Yeah.
Well, I did mine from Coursera, and I did mine all on financial aid, because Coursera has this option of financial aid, right? So I did my Meta front-end specialization on financial aid, then my Meta backend specialization on financial aid, and then I did my DevOps specialization on financial aid. The DevOps one was a very long specialization. It was the lengthiest specialization that I've done, but I'm so glad I did it, because I learned a lot from the DevOps
Oh
specialization.
yeah.
Um, I also did an AWS specialization. All these specializations cost me no money. It was all for free from financial on financial aid from Coursera. I am also uh, currently I have also registered for one more specialization that is going to be from the University of Stanford. It
Wow.
is going to be, yeah, it is going to be a specialization in data structures and algorithms.
Wow,
Right
that's cool.
after right after the Google thing happened, I really wanted to work a lot on data
Oh
structures and
yeah.
algorithms.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have this kind of structured approach where I have some kind of mentor. Yes, I do have lead code and we do have hacker rank and all these things, but it's been a while since I've worked on DSA. From like I passed I completed my graduation back in 2012, 2013. So it's been a while since I got a chance to study data structures and algorithm from professor. So that certification from University of Stanford, that is in a specialization actually in data structures and algorithms, that caught my eye, and
Hmm.
luckily financially it was also available in that. So I said, I should do it, because it's important for me to for one stay at the top of the curve, and then work more harder on my my data structures and algorithms part, so that I can crack technical interviews and I can maybe mentor people as well. So yeah, that was the whole motivation.
Yeah, really good, really good. I'm excited about that. You're an advocate, right? A strong advocate of the Angular community, and you look up to people like Reina and Santosh. You know them very well. How do you plan to establish yourself in the Angular community and contribute to it?
I think Rainer and Santosh are kind of like my role models. Elaine,
Yeah,
they are all Deborah Kurata, Essen, they're all like my role models in Angular community, and I really aspire to be like them, and I really aspire to be known like them in the Angular community. I'm nowhere even close to them, but I know that I really aspire to be something like them. I would also love to attend different conferences worldwide like they do, and do some kind of public speaking in the future. And
you would be
I would also
great.
love to.
You would be
Really,
great
you think
if
that?
you absolutely. I am just. I don't want this land. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
you would be great.
Okay. I don't know. I just don't think that I'm really that good. I really hope that I do. Um, but I think that would be really, really helpful in my journey towards becoming a GDE. That is something that I really want to be, and I aspire to be like them. And I want to be an open, like not an open, but I want to be like an active contributor to the official Angular Git repo. I have contributed a little bit, just improving the documentations,
Okay.
nothing too critical right now, but that is something that I really aspire to do, and hopefully inspire others as well to upskill themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that's really good. I mean, you probably could pull this part, just segment when this video is out. Just take that segment and put it on your LinkedIn profile and probably add Reina and
Yeah, that's
Santosh.
exactly what I'm doing.
That'd be really good. I've just got a few more questions before we wrap this up. And it's been absolutely lovely so far. So you actually mentioned preparing for your Google technical interview using platforms like LeetCode, HackerRank, and CodeSignal. Do you want to talk about how you approach coding problems? And do you have a favorite platform for practice? Which is your number one? Do you want to do a ranking here?
My number one is, for me, it's Code Signal, but I
Oh,
love Code Signal primarily because of the UX. The UX of Code Signal is really, I think it's really, really cool. But when it comes to problems and their complexity, I would say I would go for Lead Code and HackerRank. Um, I did three. I did pass three assessments in HackerRank as well. That was on Java. One was on JavaScript, one was on Python, and one was on Java. And those were
okay.
the basic level assessments that I did. I was working very actively on Angular, and I just wanted to know if I still am able to work on JavaScript and Java and Python, and if I need some upskilling in those areas. And I attempted that, and it got cleared. It was very, very easy.
Oh
So
yeah.
in HackerRank, it's also, yeah. So uh, for me, if you're preparing for an interview, for a technical interview, I would say Lead Code and HackerRank are my two go-to platforms. And um, one thing is because of the diverse collection of problems that they have in all sorts of areas. They have sorted the problems based on the companies. They have sorted the problems based on the areas of DSAs like linked lists. You'll find a lot of problems related to linked lists. You'll find a lot of problems related to graphs. You'll find a lot of problems related to trees and all these things. So they have a lot of structure when it comes to very complex problems, both lead code and hackering. And one more thing that I love these platforms is that you don't have to search a lot on the internet when you are struggling to solve a problem. You just go to YouTube, write the problems code, and you'll find so many solutions in different languages, so many approaches to those problems in different languages. So it gets easier, and as you go, you build enough confidence to actually be able to crack it. And it's okay if you don't build up enough confidence in the first few attempts. We all have been there. We all have done it. It gets harder, and it feels very, very difficult in the beginning. But once you get a hang of it, then it kind of is addictive to you. Like once I solved one lead code problem, and it's a and like if I am able to like beat like do like a 98, 99% score on lead code,
You want to go for the next one?
it really could me. Yeah, I really want to
Yeah,
go for the next one. It's kind of like an addictive thing.
that's
But
right.
yes, it takes time. Yeah, but it does take time to actually get the hang of it, and it feels difficult in the beginning. Even for me, after like 10 years, 11 years of spending so much time in coding and being hands-on in coding, if I'm not coding for like a couple of days, or like if there's a gap in coding for like a few days or a week or something, when I go back to it, especially lead code and hackering, I have a hard time and I struggle with solving the problem. So it's okay to not being able to uh, solve it in the first time, or not being able to come up with the optimal solution, and not being able to come up with any solution. It's fine. Don't lose your confidence, and just go to YouTube, do,
Yeah.
like solve it according to the logic.
Okay. So
Yeah.
here is another question for you. You've built a strong technical skill set. You know, absolutely impressive. And I want to talk about soft skills right now. So, do you want to talk about soft skills you think are crucial for success in the tech industry?
Um, Yes, there are so many soft skills that I would say that are very, very crucial in the tech industry, apart from you being logically competent. Um, One thing that I always tell the juniors that I'm mentoring is that there has to be some skill, technical skill, that you should be the go-to person for. Like if you wanna stand out from the crowd, and if you don't want to be a generalized person, there has to be some kind of a skill, maybe some language, maybe some framework, maybe some sort of data structures, anything that you should be the go-to person for,
Mhm.
and that really makes you stand out
That's right.
inside the industry, in the organization. Yes, one thing that I always say to my juniors, that have one skill, whether it's a technical skill or a soft skill, that you should be the go-to person for in your organization. Like people should know you for that skill if you really want to stand out. And one more thing that I always say is, it's very, very important to have the confidence and the courage to be a good communicator. Apart from communicating, you should also be a very good listener, because as you
Yeah.
progress in your journey and as you progress in your profession, you will be required to listen to a lot of stuff. Maybe it's the requirements from the user. Maybe when you are at a senior position, maybe it's the conflicts between the team between the team members. You should be a very good listener to your
Yeah.
managers, to your peers, because if you're not a very good listener, then you're probably not a very good observer. And these things really matter in your
Yeah.
career progression, in
That's right.
you climbing the corporate ladder. And you have to be liked.
Yeah.
This is also something that I always tell them that you don't just have to be very good at what you do. You also have to be liked by the people around you, by your supervisors who are going to promote you. So in order for you to effectively climb the corporate ladder, um, you have to be liked by people around you. So um, be very very good at interpersonal skills, and that is something that I personally struggle a lot as someone who doesn't get very very comfortable uh, in the beginning, but it's very very crucial for you to have good interpersonal skills, good communication skills, good listening skills if you want to climb the corporate ladder fast and effectively.
That's absolutely right. So, I mean, you've worked in various roles and you've worked with different technologies. What's the most valuable piece of career advice you've received, and how has it impacted your professional journey?
One of the best career advices that I have received was from one of my mentors at Meta during one of the specializations that I did, and he said that, and it changed perspective of me writing the code. He said that we never write code for end users. We write code for other developers
Oh, yeah.
because you don't know because you don't know how many developers are going to use your code. You don't know because you're going to grow in your career and you're going to grow in your position in the company, and you're not always going to work on one code base. And I have seen in my career projects failing because the end goal was to write code just to fulfill the user's
Yeah.
requirements, and
Yeah.
the developer's experience was not taken into account. The
That's right.
readability and the maintainability of the code was not
Yeah.
taken into account. And when the developers leave, what happens is that when another developer comes in to write that code or add more features to that code
Mm-hmm.
or modify any features into that code,
Yeah.
um, if it's not readable and if it's not maintainable, there's
Yeah.
only a certain extent to which they can help you out. And if the project is a kind of a project that by nature is used by many different users,
Yeah.
it gets very very hard for other developers to maintain it. So
Mm.
and this is something that I always tell my juniors as well, that we never write code for end users, we write
That's
code
right.
for other developers.
That's right.
So
Such a
yeah, that
beautiful
is
advice.
something that that is something that really stuck with me, and that is something that really changed the way I code now, which is not for the end users. That is like the bare minimum. That is something that you are always going to do, but do but for other developers, that is really important, because I've seen in my experiences, in my 10, 11 years of experience in the industry, overall projects failing just because the developer that was working on that project moved to another project or moved to
Oh,
another
yeah.
organization.
That's right.
So the whole project suffers, and in that, obviously, the whole organization suffers, and in the end, the user also suffers.
Yeah.
So we never write code for end users; we write code for other developers.
Yeah. That's really good. I love it. That was so profound. So, I mean, if we don't talk about what I'm about to, ask right now, it might not be complete to some people. So let's talk about AI. So, with the rise of AI and machine learning, how do you see these technologies actually shaping the future of tech jobs? And do you think, of course, they are going to impact your work, but do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think AI is not going to replace us. People using AI will, right?
Yeah,
And if I talk
that's right.
about web development, the same AI that can generate a website for one organization, that same AI can also generate the website for another organization using the
Yeah,
similar kind of color palette. So if
yeah,
you want something to be super customized, and if you want something to really be personalized for your own brand and for your own journey, there has to be some kind of a human element. There will always be place for some kind of a human element to be there to make the necessary customizations, because the same AI algorithm that can generate a website for one organization, the same algorithm is going to generate similar kind of an experience for another organization. So there will not be a lot of customization possible, and you need a human touch, and you need a human mind to actually work with you and to know your story as a brand and to know your journey as an organization, to develop the kind of experience that you want your users to have. And so also because AI lacks human element, right?
Yeah.
So a typical web developer, on the other hand, is interacting with product owners. They are approving wireframes, learning about their journey as an organization, and then keeping all these things in mind, they are going to provide them with the solution. So there will always be the requirement of a human element in the picture. But if you're someone that is not able to come up with your own unique solutions to a problem, then you're more likely to be replaced by AI, because that that is something that not by AI but by people using
Yeah.
AI in the right
Yeah.
manner.
That's right.
So we have Code Pilot, we have Code Whisperer. There are so many services, there are so many applications and tools that now we can use to not only write good quality code but also to improve the quality of our code. So that is not an issue, right?
Yeah.
But coming up with a solution, coming up with a unique solution to a problem, that is something that AI is not going to be able to do it, because that obviously requires a lot of context, and only a human brain and only a human mind that is working with the people is able to do it, and is able to come up with the kind of solution that is entirely super customizable and
Yeah.
super personalized by the brand or by the organization. So I don't think that AI is going to replace engineers. Yes, it is going to make our jobs very, very easy, in terms of the fact that it is going to, if we use it for our advantage, it is going to make our code quality so much better. It is
Yeah.
going to make the code maintenance readability so much better. But I don't think that it's going to replace us entirely.
Yeah. Of course, it's still all right. I was gonna ask another question, but I think I did ask one that was related to that one, so I'm gonna skip that one. Now let's say, talk about exactly. Well, here's a question. Looking back on your career someday, how do you hope your legacy will look?
Well, I really hope that people remember me as someone who is gritty, and someone who has persevered, and someone who has worked for very long term goals, for not for days, not for weeks, not for months, but for years, right?
Yeah.
And I might not always be the loudest voice in the room, but I'm always the most observant person in the room. And that is exactly how I would like to be remembered as. I would like to be remembered as someone um, who were persistent, and I would like to be remembered as someone who was gritty, and who embraced failures and accepted the fact that failures are going to happen and rejections are going to happen, and it's fine as long as we are not giving up. So yeah, I think this is something that I always tell my juniors as well, and this is something that I would love to be remembered as well.
That's really beautiful. Really good. I mean, in one of your posts, you mentioned applying to well, rather applying DevOps and TDD, this driven development principles from your IBM specialization. How do you incorporate these principles into your daily work?
Yes, well, like I said earlier, DevOps and TAD was one of the lengthiest specializations that I did, and I'm very, very glad that I was able to do it. It changed my entire perspective on how to approach software development and deliver quality to the end users. Before DevOps, before we were working on DevOps, both the developers and the operations were working in silos. Like there were one team of developers and there was one team of operations. And developers used to develop an application, and then they used to hand over the application's maintenance to the operations team, who had no connection with the code base, right? They had
Yeah.
no link with the code, and they just used to be given this software and some documentation that was never updated. And they it was like, it's your problem now, you have to maintain it. On the other hand,
Yeah.
on the other hand, DevOps actually changes this narrative of working in silos and focuses on the philosophy of you build it, you run it.
Yeah.
Learning about DevOps principles and applying those principles into my daily work helped me a great deal in writing high quality code and providing good quality software. In terms of frequent deployments, faster troubleshooting, and more effective maintenance to application, DevOps has really, applying DevOps principle has really helped me a lot in my overall approach of maintaining and writing software. As
That's
for
right.
test
Yeah.
driven development, which focuses on writing unit tests first before writing your code, it allows me to drive my code from the test. In other words, I write tests for the code that I wish I had, and then go on writing the code to pass those tests.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so by the time we are ready for deployment, I have a higher code coverage. And more importantly, I don't lose focus from the bigger picture,
Oh yeah.
because I had this tendency that I used to get hung up on small details, and I used to lose sight of the overall bigger picture,
Oh yeah.
right? And writing good quality unit tests actually allowed me to stay focused on the bigger picture and
Yeah.
not lose sight and not to get hung up on
Yeah.
the smaller intricate details.
Yeah.
So so that is something
Yeah.
that really test driven development really
Yeah.
changed for me.
Yeah.
um
That's good.
yeah.
That's good. You've actually mentioned, being inspired by mentors. Let's talk about how important mentorship is in tech. And also, do you actually mentor other people?
I would love to. I
Okay.
do as well when I'm working with my juniors and when I'm working with new developers. This is something that I would love to do. And yes, the importance of mentorship is critical in your career progression. I have seen people who I've interacted with people who are brilliant, so much with so much potential, and because they didn't have the right kind of mentorship and because they didn't have the right kind of mentors who were able to guide them, they kind of chose to step down from development and chose other career paths just because of the fact that they were not able to get the kind of mentorship that they needed at that time in their careers. So mentorship is critical in your growth. And um, I really aspire to be a mentor one day. And I mean, if it wasn't for mentors like Santosh and Esan and Deborah Corata and Elaine, I wouldn't have been able to explore Angular in a way. And I'm sure a lot of developers agree to that it was because of their efforts that we are able to learn so much about Angular. And it was actually because of their efforts that they contributed to the framework and they made all their knowledge accessible to us, that we are now able to write good quality code. And so mentorship is critical, whether it's your upskilling, whether it's your career progression. It's important for you to have a mentor. It's important for you to have someone that you can rely on, and someone who you can go to when you're stuck at something.
Yeah.
And something that it saves you a lot of time as well. It saves me a lot of time when I have to google something. I can just ask them, and I can
That's right.
just reach out to them and ask them about it very casually. So, and they're very, very good as well. So it's important, and I really aspire to be like them one day.
Yeah. That's really cool. Here's the last question for you. what's next for you in your career? Do you have any big goals or project you're working on that you'd like to share? Maybe something that's gonna surpass
Mm,
Chat GPT. I'm just kidding.
well, um, for now, the biggest goal that I have is to become a GD in Angular.
Okay.
I don't know when it's gonna happen. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but this is something that I really aspire to do, and this is something that because now I've had so much experience in the industry, I think now it's time for me to be more on the teaching side of the picture and share what my learning has been to other developers in terms of blogs, in terms of public speaking. I haven't really started working on my public speaking skills yet, but I really want to improve on that. And yeah, I think it's gonna be like if you ask me for the next move, it's gonna be more and more of front end and Angular and React and Next, and a lot of web development in general and front end in general. And like if I'm able to do it, then yes, becoming an Angular GD would be like a dream come true for me.
Yeah. I'm actually
Yeah,
sure that you're subscribed to all my channels, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and tell the people to like the video? I mean, it's been absolutely so inspiring. It's been really good. I've had such a beautiful time chatting with you and your
Same here.
insights. Yeah, thank you. The insights are just so good. Really, really wonderful. I'm like, I don't want it to
Thank you
win.
so
I
much.
still do want to ask you some more questions, but of course, I'll wrap it up. It's really been a
Yeah,
bliss, you
sure.
know. All right. Do you want to tell the
Same
people?
here.
I appreciate that. Do you want to tell them to like and subscribe to the channel?
Oh yeah, Josh. Oh yeah, sure. Well, Joshua is an amazing person, and
Thank you.
I love chatting with you, Joshua.
I
And
appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I really hope that your channel grows, and I really wish you best of luck. And please like and subscribe to his YouTube channel, and it will mean a lot to him.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I do want to say a big thank you to you. And, it's absolutely been great. It's been great indeed.
Same
This
here.
was really
Thank you so much for
wonderful.
having me.
Pleasure's all mine.
Thank you so
Pleasure's
much
all
for
mine.
having me.
Probably, later we could actually have another conversation, maybe topic based,
Oh yeah,
later
sure.
on,
Oh yeah,
whatever
sure.
it
Why
is.
not? Oh, perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. I would love that. Yeah,
Okay. So
sure.
that's all for now. Again, thank you and do have a beautiful rest of your day. We're going to see you on the next episode.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a nice weekend.
Yeah.